Come along with us this time as we explore Main Street in downtown Littleton, Colorado. This place is right at the South Platte River. It made its way through the railroad, and we are going to explore some historic maps, the historic railroad stations, as well as some historic buildings and some fun stories that Littleton, Colorado has to offer. We just moved our office here, and man, are we glad to call it home. Let's take a stroll down downtown Littleton, down Main Street, and let's look at the history of Littleton, Colorado, as we take a stroll and enjoy this beautiful day. So there wouldn't be a Littleton without Richard Sullivan Little, the town's namesake. He was from New Hampshire, and he was an engineer, and at that time he just started going more west and more west. There wouldn't really be a Littleton without discovering gold in the Pikes Peak region. This is what brought a huge influx of people to the Denver metro at that time. Richard Little was kind of tired of living paycheck to paycheck, saved up a little bit of money, and then decided that he was going to go strike gold, metaphorically speaking, in Colorado. Being his background was an engineer, he figured that this area would need engineers more than ever. And boy, was he right about that. Little, very fast, gained a great reputation for being a really solid engineer in our area. And in particular, his main focus was to divert water to turn parts of Colorado into more of an agrarian society, bringing agriculture and a much-needed supply of water, which brought food to the area. Richard Little very fast fell in love with an area that he was hired to divert water to, which is now modern-day Littleton. So he homesteaded here. He loved the views of the Rocky Mountains, and you cannot blame him for that. And he built himself a sizable cabin and later a big house. He went to Chicago and grabbed his wife and headed on back to Littleton, where he became an entrepreneur of sorts, dividing this into a town, building a mill so that way he could mill flour, which was possible because of the water that he was able to divert from the South Platte River, which brought industry into this area. Littleton then really started to boom when the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad, which later became the Santa Fe Railroad, reached Littleton in 1871. Keep in mind, Richard and Angeline Little were here since 1862, so this was kind of a big deal for them. By the time of Colorado's statehood in 1876, there were schools, churches, a hotel, stores, and many of the other trappings of Western settlement. In 1890, the 245-strong residents voted to incorporate the town of Littleton, which is why you'll see on a lot of the signs founded in 1890. A milestone in the history of Littleton came in 1902, which is about 3 years after Little's death, when the old Arapahoe County was divided into Arapahoe, Denver, Adams, Washington, and Yuma counties. Look at this map here, and you'll see that this all used to be one big county, Arapahoe County. The then Governor Orman named Littleton the temporary county seat, which became the permanent county seat, and apparently there was a big rivalry at that time between Englewood and Littleton. In some of these historic maps, you'll even see that Englewood was more prominent than Littleton was. So Littleton kind of won in this competition by becoming the county seat. We're going to explore the old courthouse here in just a little bit. Gaining the permanent county seat brought not only government employees and businesses, but all of their support services. So Littleton now becomes this bustling place because we've got a railroad and we become the county seat of Arapahoe County. Agriculture remained the staple industry of Littleton until after World War II. Beginning with electronics and pneumatics, moving to munitions, and finally to aerospace, manufacturing became the important employer of the magnet for the boom in housing development during the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And you'll see in some of these videos that Dish Network is headquartered here. Really cool that there's one of the SpaceX rockets that's at Dish Network over there right now. And there's many military companies here like Lockheed Martin Space, Blue Origin, etc. Before we look at the historic buildings here in Littleton, let's look at how it got on the map. First person that would have explored this area as far as colonization goes is Major Long and the Major Long expedition, as you can see on this map here. And we can see Littleton barely on the map here in 1877. And here we can see what really put Denver on the map, which is the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad, later known as the Santa Fe. Before we talk railroad though, let's talk what really put towns on the map, and that's this mill, which was the Rough and Ready flour mill, and also the grain elevator that accompanied it, which is what we see here. This was the only grain elevator known historically as the Columbine Mill that served all of Arapahoe County, which keep in mind that was Denver too, as well as Douglas County. So if you had a mill and you had a train, you pretty much had the town that is going to win and thrive over all other towns in the area. John Little was very much the person that installed these things. Keep in mind, he got water here, and you need water to run an elevator, you need water to run a mill. So this is what really put Littleton on the map, you could say, even before the railroad was coming to Littleton at that time. Now the railroad coming there was just an additional boom. It certainly allowed for the export of this finished product of flour to be all the easier and for people to come in all the easier. The mill, which is now burnt down, unfortunately, was built in 1867, and the grain elevator in 1901. The Denver and Rio Grande, later the Santa Fe, is what turned Littleton into a Big Ten. No pun intended. I'm sorry, these are really, really bad. Originally, there was a structure built in the 1870s, which we're going to explore, the original train house, and then we're going to go over to where the current RTD brings you into Denver, into South Denver Metro, and look at the current train station, which was built just a little bit later. In 1872, the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad made its way past Mr. Little's farm and flour mill, which was very convenient for Mr. Little. I would say that it definitely had a boom in enterprise, and in 1873, they built their train depot, and at one time there was as many as 30 of these Santa Fe trains passing through the area every single day. And don't you worry, I'm going to go into this caboose as well so we can truly be transported into the 19th century. This train depot was relocated from where it originally was to somewhere else, just right by the courthouse, and now serves as an art museum. It was currently hosting some very talented high school art, but there's a rotating gallery.
History. Would you like one of the sheets?
Yeah, that'd be so nice. That would be so helpful for me. Let's go in.
What's your name?
Derek Schultz. Check this out. Same woodwork, same built-in furniture. This is where you would have bought tickets in 1888. In the exact same spot people would have sat in to sell them to you. the old ticket window here, huh?
Yes. You'd be interested in this. Now, this was all built. And this was built by Chinese.
Oh, really?
Yes, I want to show you something.
Yeah, please.
Really cool. I don't know what it says.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so interesting. Anyone that knows what this says, please comment below. That little door, little screen door. Oh, is that?
It is plumbed.
Oh, really? Not the old outhouse style then.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
Wow, this is so neat. Oh, it's got the old thatch roof on it though.
So April, you want to stay out there?
And if you think I wasn't gonna find a way to get in this caboose, well, you don't know me very well then. Perfect. Oh, this is so cool. Look at that. Enjoy this as we get transported into 1880s transit. I truly could have stayed here all day, but there's just so much history in Littleton. I had to move on to where the train station is currently and where it has been for almost 130 years. Those people were so nice. Joyce and April gave me a private tour of the caboose, and now I am walking over to where that train depot was originally, and then going to show you the current one. So this is where it would have been originally. Train dropping you off right here on Main Street. After the train depot wasn't big enough, they constructed a bigger, better train depot out of rhyolite stone from Castle Rock, just to the south of here. This could serve more people and was more of a beacon of what Littleton had become, which had established a regular train service between Denver, Littleton, and an army base in Fort Lupton, which really put Littleton on the map. This beautiful structure stands at the head of the Regional Transportation District, also known as RTD. You can hop on the light rail still to this day right here and get almost anywhere in the Denver Metro. I thought it was interesting that in 1871, when Jackson Palmer built the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad, that he was just really trying to connect Denver to the resort community he had just founded, Colorado Springs. Richard Little just got kind of lucky in that his place was on the way which provided a big boom for his rough and ready flour mill. So Littleton had a flour mill, a railroad, a grain elevator, and when Arapahoe County got split up into different counties, Littleton was at the head to become the county seat, beating out rival Englewood. Around the turn of the century, it became apparent that Denver just had too much dang power, and there was a big movement to pass an amendment to the Colorado Constitution to make Denver its own city and county, which left Arapahoe County to the south without a permanent seat. And that's where Englewood and Littleton got into a big feud over who should be the county seat. Littleton held some events, a free barbecue, some dancing, and some general fun to make the population side with it as the county seat. And in 1904, it became permanently the county seat of Arapahoe County. Now let's travel back on and around Main Street and look at some of the historic buildings that are still there. Our first stop is at the Town Hall in the middle of the 4-block Main Street on Main Street, Littleton, which is easily one of my favorite buildings here, as it was designed by renowned architect and Littleton resident JJ Benedict, who built many things and many homes in the Denver area, and I particularly like that it was designed around when most of his buildings were in the Roaring 20s. Benedict took inspiration from the Beaux Arts School of Architecture in Paris and built the town hall in an Italian Renaissance revival design. The town hall now no longer serves as a town hall and actually serves as a theater and an arts center. So if you want to enjoy some of the finest architecture Colorado has to offer, I highly recommend that you check out a show here. Every town needs a good fraternal order and a Mason Hall, right? Well, this one was organized before Littleton was even Littleton in 1872 by Grand Master Henry M. Teller. You'll recognize his name. The first official was Joseph W. Bowles, and then this lodge was eventually built in the early 1900s. They rented out the general store for some time, which we'll see next. One of the earliest buildings in Littleton was the J.D. Hill General Store. Built in 1872, it was Littleton's first general store and post office, and it actually makes the maps before Littleton even does. Fraternal organizations, like we just mentioned, churches, and town government used the second floor meeting hall. South Rap and Main Street were the OG road down to Santa Fe, which made Hill's General Store a very convenient location to get some business. The wood-clapboard 2-story vernacular building has had many alterations over the years. Today, it stands as a flower shop, and there's another spot for rent. And it's a little bit of a bummer to me that a couple of the major spots here, the elevator and one of these commercial spots in J.D. Hill's store, are not rented. So if you're looking for some historic spots, here you go. I've given you just a taste of historic Littleton. By no means did I go over every single historic building, but I gave you just a small sample. If you want to see all the historic buildings in Littleton, look at the link below. Remember, I don't just make historic videos for a living, I also own a real estate brokerage. If you're buying, selling, moving, or investing in the area, Hayley and I would love to help.